One day, you will be lying in a bed you cannot get out of, and your body will be failing in a way that does not reverse, and you will understand, far too late to do anything about it, that the reward you spent your entire life waiting for is not coming, that there is no one to complain to, that you paid in full every day for decades into a promise you were never once allowed to check, and the account was empty the whole time. That is where this ends for almost everyone. Not with a revelation, not with a choir, with a slow, quiet, private horror in a room that smells like antiseptic and old air, with a machine counting your heartbeats out loud, when there is no time left to have lived differently, and no strength left to be angry about it, and no one in the room who can tell you the thing you spent your whole life needing to know. Just the ceiling, and the counting, and the arithmetic you avoided your entire life finally doing itself in the dark without your permission. I am not going to tell you whether there is anything after you die. I do not know. Nobody does. What I am going to do is colder, and it is going to sit in your chest for a while after this ends, and I am not going to apologize for that, because you need to feel it while there is still time. I am going to show you what the promise of heaven does to a person while they are still breathing, what it takes, who takes it, and why the fear you felt in the first 10 seconds of this video is the exact leash it has been holding you your entire life. The man who saw this without flinching was Friedrich Nietzsche, and it helped drive him into a silence he never came out of. He did not waste his time arguing about whether the gates are real. He asked the question that actually costs you something. Not is it true, but what is it for? What does a promise of perfect happiness later do to the one real life you are living now? And what he found at the bottom of that question is worse than there being nothing after death. What he found is that the promise of something after death is quietly eating the only life you will ever get right now while you wait. And I want you to notice something before we start. Something happening in your body right now. That resistance you feel, that urge to click away, to dismiss this, to decide I'm wrong before you have heard it. That is not your judgment. That is the fear moving the way it was trained to move the instant anyone gets near the promise. Watch it work. Feel it try to protect the thing that has been taken from you. Because a belief that makes you afraid to examine it, that punishes the examination before you have even begun, has already told you everything you need to know about what it is and what it is for. So here is what you were about to sit through. 6 things the promise of heaven was built to take from you. Not comfort, control. And by the end, you are going to see the machine that has been running you, and you are going to understand that the fear keeping you from looking at it is part of the machine. The first thing it takes your one life and turns it into a waiting room, and you will not notice until the waiting is over. Picture her clearly, because she is real and she is in every family. A woman who spent 40 years being patient. She stayed in the marriage that emptied her out year after year because leaving felt like failing a test. She endured work that ground her down to a stub because suffering was supposed to mean something. She swallowed 1,000 small humiliations and called each one a cross to carry. And through all of it, she held one thought like a candle. This is not the real thing. The real thing comes later. This is just the corridor. And here is the horror of it. She was right that it was a corridor. She was just wrong about what waited at the end. Because the years she spent waiting were not a rehearsal for her life. They were her life. The whole of it. Every morning she told herself did not fully count was a morning she was actually, permanently using up. And she reached the end of it, still waiting, still patient, still good. And the door at the end of the corridor did not open to paradise. It opened onto nothing she was ever allowed to confirm. And by then, there was no time left to have lived instead of waited. Nietzsche had a phrase for this that lands like a stone. He called this kind of belief hostile to life. Not wrong, not false, hostile. an active enemy of the only existence you have, because it teaches you that your actual life, the mornings and the meals and the body and the light, is the lesser thing, the shadow, the waiting room. And a person who believes their real life is somewhere else, later, will let this one be taken from them piece by piece and thank the people taking it, because in their mind, it was never the real thing anyway. And ask the cold question: who benefits when you believe your real life comes later? Everyone who is taking something from you now. The one who thinks this world is a test to be endured is the most obedient worker, the most manageable subject, the least likely to ever stand up and say, "This is wrong and I want it to stop." He has been taught to expect nothing here, so he accepts everything. And it does not feel like theft while it is happening. That is what makes it perfect. It feels like patience. It feels like strength. It feels like being the good one, the one who does not complain, the one who endures. You are praised for it the whole way down. The more of your life you surrender to the waiting, the holier everyone tells you that you are being, and the better it feels, right up until the moment it is over, and you understand that you were applauded your entire life for the act of not living it. The waiting room has soft chairs and kind words, and everyone in it is smiling, and it is still a room you never leave. So answer this, honestly, and do not reach for the comfortable version. How many years have you already spent treating your life as a rehearsal, waiting for it to really begin? And here is the part that should chill you. Those years are not coming back. They are already gone. You already spent them. The only question left is how many of the ones you have not spent yet you are going to hand over to the same waiting. The second thing it takes your payment now and gives you a receipt you can only cash after you were dead, which is to say, never. Here is the shape of it, and once you see the shape, you cannot stop seeing it. Every system built to control people has the same problem to solve. How do you get a person to accept a terrible deal now in exchange for a reward without ever actually handing over the reward? And the promise of heaven solved it more perfectly than anything else in human history. You make the payment due after death, because the dead do not come back to complain. The dead do not ask for a refund. The dead cannot tell the living they were cheated. Look at the actual contract. Endure now. Obey now, stay quiet, stay humble, stay poor, do not grasp at too much happiness, do not make trouble, do not ask too many questions, and later, after your heart stops, you will be repaid 1,000 times over, forever. It's the only agreement in the history of the world where not one single person who received the payment has ever come back to confirm it exists. You cannot check it, you cannot audit it, you cannot find one verified case. You can only pay and pay and pay with the days of your actual life and trust that the receipt is good, and you will find out whether it was good at the exact moment it becomes impossible to do anything about it. Picture the man in the quiet room near the end. He gave everything to the promise. Every Sunday, every tithe he could not afford, every pleasure denied, every doubt strangled in its crib, every time he wanted to walk out the door and stayed because the reward was certain. And in that room, with the machines beside him, a thought arrives that is so large and so cold he cannot push it away because he no longer has the strength. The thought is this: he never saw the receipt cashed, not once, not by anyone. He paid his whole life into an account no living person has ever confirmed exists, and now the payment is due, and he is about to find out, and there is nothing at all that he can do about it now. That is not a peaceful death. That is a man discovering the con at the exact moment he can no longer act on it. And here's the detail that should keep you up. The people collecting are not waiting for you to die. They collect now. In real time. The money, the obedience, the silence, the labor, the years, all of it is handed over here in this life, into hands you can actually see, while the reward alone is postponed to the one place you cannot check. Everything you give is real and immediate. Everything you are promised is invisible and deferred. That is not an exchange. That is the oldest trick there is, and it survives precisely because the only person who could expose it is dead before he can. So ask yourself, how much have you already paid into a promise you were never allowed to check? And who has been collecting the real payments here in this life, in money and obedience and silence and years, while you wait for a payout that only arrives when you can no longer ask for it? The third thing it takes your mind by teaching you that the one tool that could free you is the very thing that will damn you. Look at what the promise actually asks of you. Not goodness, not kindness, obedience, faith, the surrender of your own judgment. The reward is not promised to the person who thinks clearly and sees the world as it is. It is promised to the one who believes without proof, who obeys without understanding, who does not lean on their own mind, who accepts what they are told precisely when it makes no sense, because accepting the senseless thing is the proof that your faith is strong. And here's the trap, the cleverest part of the entire machine. The one thing that could ever free you from it is your own mind, your ability to look at the arrangement and ask why. And the promise has turned that exact ability into the sin that costs you everything. To doubt is not simply to be wrong. To doubt is to gamble your soul. To question the promise is to risk the reward. So you do not just fail to question, you become afraid to. You feel your own clearest thinking as the danger that could ever set you free. You experience the key to your own cage as the most frightening object you could ever pick up, and so you leave it on the floor for your whole life and call leaving it there a virtue. Nietzsche said it plainly, faith means not wanting to know what is true. It is a decision to look away from reality dressed in the robes of the highest virtue. And a person trained from childhood to feel their own doubts as sins is a person who can be led anywhere, made to accept anything as long as it arrives wrapped in the promise and guarded by the fear. Somewhere tonight, a young man is awake at 3 a.m. with a question he cannot kill, a real one, a crack running through the story he was raised inside. And he is not thrilled by it the way a free mind is thrilled by a real question. He is terrified. His heart is going because he was taught that the question itself is the danger, that following it leads to the fire, that to pull on that thread is to unravel everything and lose the reward forever. So he does what he was trained to do since before he could read. He strangles it. He prays it down. He calls the clearest thought he has ever had a temptation, and he buries it, and he feels holy for the burying. And that crack stays sealed for another 20 years because he was taught that looking at it directly could cost him heaven. He will do this hundreds of times over decades until the strangling of his own thoughts becomes so fast and so automatic that he no longer feels it happen. It will become who he is, a man afraid of his own mind. A man who mistakes the walls of his cell for the shape of the world because he has never once let himself walk to the edge of them and push. And he will call that peace. He will call it faith. He will teach it to his children as the highest thing a person can have, and they will inherit the same fear and strangle the same questions and pass the same silence down for as long as the promise holds. And notice how young the fear was planted, because that is where its power comes from. The child who asked the honest question and got a warning instead of an answer learned something before they had words for it. They learned that some rooms in their own mind are locked, and that the locks are there for their protection, and that the desire to open them is itself a kind of sin. And they grew into an adult who flinches from their own best thinking automatically without knowing why, who feels a jolt of something like guilt whenever their mind drifts toward the forbidden thread. The obedience was set so deep, so early, that it stopped feeling like obedience and started feeling like conscience. But it is not your conscience. It was installed, and it is still running. So ask yourself, when a real doubt about the promise rises in you, what comes first, curiosity or fear? And if it is fear, sit with the fact that the fear was installed, on purpose, early, to keep you from ever picking up the one thing that could set you free. The fourth thing it takes your suffering and calls it holy so that you will stop trying to make it end. This is the cruelest gear, and once you see it, you will see it everywhere, in everyone you love. The promise does not only offer a reward for enduring, it makes the enduring itself into something beautiful. Blessed are those who suffer, blessed are the meek. Your pain is not a problem, it is a gift, a refining fire. The more you suffer here, quietly, without complaint, the greater your reward there. Your agony is not a signal that something is wrong, it is proof that you are on the right path. Feel what that does to a living person. It takes the most basic survival instinct you have, the one that says, this hurts, this is wrong, this has to stop, and it reaches in and switches it off. It cuts the wire to the alarm. A person who believes their suffering is holy will not fight to end it. They will not demand better. They will bless the thing that is destroying them. And every ounce of strength that could have gone into changing their actual life gets spent instead on carrying the unbearable more gracefully, because they were taught that the carrying is the whole point. Think of the woman being ground into nothing, exhausted past the point of exhaustion, treated as less than she is every day by people who benefit from her not noticing. And when the pain becomes too much to ignore, she does not think, this is wrong and I will change it. She thinks, I am being tested and I must endure, and my reward will be great. And so she stays, year after year after year. She blesses the hand on her throat. She takes the one life she has, the only one, the one that is not coming back, and she pours it day by day into bearing something she was never meant to bear. And every day she pours it out, she is told she is holy for it. And the telling keeps her pouring. She calls that holiness. And the people crushing her could not have designed a more perfect prison, because she locks herself in it every morning and thanks God for the key. This is why Nietzsche called a religion that sanctifies suffering the most complete tool of control ever built. It needs no guards. The prisoner guards himself. He defends the thing that is killing him because he has been taught that the killing is what makes him good. And this is the gear that cannot be argued with, because it turns your own pain into evidence for the thing causing it. Every other lie can be met with a fact, but this one is armored. The worse your life becomes, the more holy the suffering is declared to be, the greater the reward you are told you are storing up, the more certain you must be that you are on the right path. So agony stops being a reason to doubt the arrangement and becomes proof of it. A person sealed inside that logic cannot be reached even by their own screaming, because they have been taught to hear the scream as a hymn. The alarm was not just disconnected, it was rewired to sound like music. So name it. What in your life have you been calling a test, a cross, a blessing, God's plan, when the honest word is simply wrong and fixable, and something you were taught to endure so that you would never end it? The fifth thing it takes the better world you could have built by pointing you at a perfect one you can only reach by dying. Everything about the promise aims you away from here. Your true home is not this world. Store up treasure in heaven, not on earth. This life is a vapor, a shadow, fleeting, fallen. The real life is elsewhere. You are a stranger passing through. And caring too much about this world, fighting to fix it, is a kind of failure, a clinging to the temporary when you should be longing for the eternal. Follow that across a whole population and watch what dies. If this world is not the real one, if it is only a broken hallway to the true one, then why pour your life into repairing it? Why fight to change conditions in a place you have been taught is temporary and beneath your real concern? So the energy of the most caring, most patient, most decent people, the exact ones with the strength to build something better here, gets aimed up, at the sky, at later, and away from the ground where it might have changed something. And the ground stays broken, generation after generation, the same injustice, the same cruelty, the same fixable, unfixed suffering passed down like an heirloom, because in every single generation, the people with the strength to end it were told from birth that ending it was not their job, that their job was to endure it beautifully and wait. Imagine what 1,000 years of the best people aimed at the sky instead of the ground could have built here, and did not, because they were promised it did not matter. And here is the part that should make you cold. If you wanted to keep a broken world exactly as it is, you could not invent a better tool. Convince the best people that fixing this world is beneath them, that their real reward is elsewhere, that they should endure the broken thing quietly and wait, and you have disarmed in a single move the only people who might have changed it. And you would not even have to enforce it. You teach it to them young, and they teach it to their children, and it runs itself for 1,000 years. The meek were promised the earth, and in exchange for that promise, they handed it over, and it went to whoever was willing to grab it while the good people waited for the sky. And the ones who profit from things staying broken did not even have to plan it. They inherited a machine that runs on its own. The most decent people in every generation, the ones with the strength and the care to change something, are told from birth that changing this world is a distraction from the next. So they aim it all upward, and the broken thing in front of them stays exactly as broken as it was, handed down intact to the next generation of good people who are told the same thing and do the same thing and change nothing and die still waiting, while the world goes to whoever was willing to want it now. So ask yourself, how much of your care, your fight, your hope for something better has been aimed at a perfect world you can only enter by dying, and pulled away from the only world you could actually change, the one you are standing in, the one that is still broken because people like you were told to wait.
The sixth thing, and it is the one underneath all the others, the engine the whole machine runs on. It takes your fear of death and it uses that fear as the leash, and it sells you the only key. Here is the mechanism stripped bare. Every human being is afraid of death. It is the oldest fear, the one under all the other fears, the animal terror of simply stopping, of the light going out, of not being. You have felt it in the dark at 3 a.m. when the noise of the day is gone and there is nothing left between you and the fact of it. The pure, cold dread of your own ending, the animal certainty that one day you will simply not be here and the world will go on without you as if you had never been, and there is nothing at all that you can do to stop it. You have touched that terror for a moment and pulled your hand back fast, the way everyone does, because it is unbearable to hold for more than a second. And the promise of heaven walks straight up to that terror, the largest one you have, and it says, I can make it go away. You will not stop, you will not end, you will live forever in perfect happiness if you believe, if you obey, if you endure, if you pay, if you do what you are told. There it is, the whole thing. It takes your deepest fear and offers you the only relief from it. And the price of the relief is everything. Your obedience, your silence, your doubt, your one life spent on their terms in exchange for the promise that the terror is a lie. The fear is the leash, the promise is the key, and the same hands hold both. They point at the thing you are most afraid of, and then they sell you the only escape, and the escape costs you the very life you were trying to protect. And a person held by that leash will accept anything, endure anything, obey anything, because the alternative they have been shown is not merely a hard life, it is the fire. It is the ending made permanent and made terrible. You cannot easily walk away from the one thing standing between you and the oldest terror you have. So you stay, and you pay, and you call the paying faith. Nietzsche understood that whoever owns your fear of death owns you completely. There is no deeper control. And he understood the terrible, vertiginous freedom on the other side of it, that the person who turns and faces the fear directly, who accepts that they will die and might simply end, cannot be held by that leash anymore, because the thing it was tied to has been looked at instead of fled. But almost no one does this. Almost everyone chooses the promise and the leash and the waiting, because facing the fear alone, without the story, in the cold, is the hardest thing a human being can do. And understand why this one story has outlived every empire and survived every argument ever made against it. It is not held up by evidence. It is held up by terror. You can show a believer every crack, every contradiction, every reason to doubt, and none of it will move them, because it is not competing with their reason, it is holding their reason hostage with the oldest fear they have as the ransom. That is why you cannot think your way out of it from the outside, and why no one can think their way out of it for you. It can only be faced, alone, in the cold, by a person who has finally decided they would rather see the truth than be soothed by a story they were never allowed to check. So ask yourself the question, and do not flinch from it. What would you do right now in this actual life if you were not afraid of what comes after you die? Picture it exactly. The job you would leave tomorrow, the person you would stop trying to please, the truth you would finally say, the life you would stop postponing. And then understand what the size of that answer means. Everything on that list is a thing the fear has been taking from you, every single one. The leash has a length, and the length is measured in all the things you would already be doing if you were not afraid.
There is one more thing, and it is the quietest and the most inescapable part of the whole machine, and I saved it for last because it is the one that will make walking away almost impossible. It got the prisoners to guard each other. Once the promise lives inside enough people, it needs no one at the top to enforce it, because the believers enforce it on one another and on themselves out of love. The one who begins to doubt is pulled gently back by people who are genuinely afraid for their soul. The one who wants to stop enduring is reminded kindly, tearfully, of the reward. The one who reaches for too much happiness in this life is warned, softly, by people who mean well, about the danger to the next. No guards, no chains, just a room full of frightened people holding each other inside the same waiting room, every one of them certain they are helping, every one of them afraid on the other's behalf. And that is the final horror of it, the reason it is so hard to leave. Stepping out does not feel like freedom. It feels like abandoning the people you love. It feels like betrayal. The ones still inside will grieve you and warn you and weep for you, and their fear will be real, and their love will be real, and both of those things will pull at you every single day. Nietzsche knew this was the loneliest act a human being can perform, to stop believing the thing that everyone you love still believes, to step out of the warm, frightened room into the cold, alone, with no story and no promise and no one beside you. He did it. It helped destroy him, and he still said it was worth it, because a life spent inside a cage you can see is not a life. It is a long, comfortable, well-attended waiting for a train that was never coming. So what happens now? Because I have shown you the machine, and I told you at the start there would be no comfort, and there is not going to be any. I am not going to tell you it is all fine. I am not going to hand you a softer story to replace the one I took. Nietzsche did not do that, and I will not insult you by doing it either. Here is the only thing there is, and it is not comfort. It is worse than comfort, because it demands something of you.
The promise took your one life and told you to wait for another one. And there is no other one that anyone has ever confirmed. There is only this, the life you are in right now, tonight, watching this with some unknown and shrinking number of days left in it. That is not a hopeful thought. It is a terrifying one, because it means the waiting was not noble. It was theft. Every day you spent enduring instead of living, obeying instead of asking, bearing instead of ending, was a day taken from the only account that was ever real, the one you are spending down right now, whether you look at it or not. And here is the part that should get you out of the chair. You already know how much of it is gone. Do the arithmetic you've been avoiding. Take the years you've probably got, subtract the ones already spent waiting, and look at the number that is left and understand that it is smaller than you want it to be, and that you've been handing pieces of it every week to a promise that pays out only after it is too late to enjoy the payment. The fear made you do it. The fear you felt in the first 10 seconds of this video. The fear that is telling you even now to look away from all of this and go back to it, because the waiting is comfortable and this is not.
That fear is the leash, and I cannot take it off you. No one can take it off you. You are the only person who can turn and look at it. And the horror of it is that most people never will. They will feel exactly what you are feeling right now, this cold clarity, this crack of light, and they will let the fear close it back over, and they will go back to waiting. And they will do it until the room with the machines, and the receipt that never cashes, and the last thought that comes too late. So here's the last question, and there's no comfortable answer to it, and I'm not going to pretend there is. You've seen the machine now. You've felt the leash. Are you going to keep waiting? Keep enduring? Keep pouring out the only life you'll ever have on a promise you were never allowed to check? Or are you going to turn tonight, right now, before another year is gone, and start living in the one life you can actually confirm is real? The one that is ending, the one you are in, the one that will not wait for you to be ready, that is spending itself right now, this second, as you sit here deciding whether to believe me, using up the very thing we are talking about, the way it has been used up this entire time, whether you are watching it go or not. Most of you will choose the waiting. That is the most chilling thing I know, and it is true, and I'm not going to soften it. The fear is that strong. The only question that matters is whether you are one of them. Tell me in the comments what you would do tomorrow if you stopped waiting. Not someday, tomorrow. Say it out loud here where you cannot unsay it, because saying it is the only place it has ever started, and because the alternative is the ceiling and the counting and the arithmetic doing itself in the dark when it is finally, permanently, too late. I read every single one.